Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this evening for our regular board meeting. We will now take a moment of silence. Please join me. Thank you. If you'll please stand and will join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to again thank everyone for joining us. And if you wouldn't mind making sure that your phones are on vibrate. So take that moment. We will now move into staff questions. Does anyone on the board have a question for staff? I do have a question for staff. Mr. Roberts, would you mind giving us an update on our social media policy and kind of where we're at with that?
Yes, ma'am. So if you recall, January 3rd, we had pre-meeting, staff presented the social media policies for some board discussion. On January 18th, the board adopted a social media policy for the town employees and also the town social media sites. And we propose to bring back a revised social media policy for elected officials and members of the appointed boards, committees, and commissioners sometime in April, maybe the first meeting, maybe the second meeting. And then just to note, it's important that everyone knows that the social media posts made by the mayor or board of commissioners do not reflect official reviews of the town of Huntersville.
Okay, thank you very much. I think what we'll be doing is, just as a reminder, every so often, probably quarterly or so, just making sure that that information gets out there.
Will do, Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, you have a question for staff.
Is Hoyle or Graham here? I wanted to know if we had an update about Igor.
Chief, are you out? Can you hear us out there? He's running now. He may pass out on the way here, I don't know.
Hey, I was just asking if we had an update about Igor.
I do.
Can you please, I know.
Sorry, while he walks up here, Igor is one of our K-9 officers. He's an officer.
So, for those of you who don't know, Igor, one of our K-9 officers, was injured in a training accident, pretty serious injury. And he was flown to NC State, and NC State University did some advanced surgery for him. I understand it took 8.5 hours of surgery. Right now, he's in recovery. They're expecting, 6 to 8 month rehab. So right now, he's coming to work today, and he was actually at work today. He's in the office, along with the handler. So we're going to evaluate that and see how it goes. I don't know whether he's going to be able to go back to work or not, but that is the goal, is to try to get back to work. So that's what he loves to do. But that's where we're at. So we're just in a waiting period and seeing how he gets along. But I got to tell you, from the vets to NC State, and they've been amazing what they did for us at no cost to us, and just amazing what they've done. So.
I saw that there was a GoFundMe. Did you guys meet the goals, or did the vet meet the goals
I'm
for
not
that?
familiar with the GoFundMe.
Okay.
I'm not sure who set that up.
Commissioner Boone.
Commissioner Phillips, I checked that Sunday, and they were looking for 10,000, and it was right at 9,800. So that's pretty close, and I know who the vet is, and please tell him thank you for his service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff this evening? Okay. I do want to remind everyone that the town board no longer accepts public comments via email. We have gone back to pre-COVID protocols for that, so that's kind of exciting. And we are now going to move into public comments, requests, and presentations. So let me just give me a moment as I walk through these I have someone here for a public hearing. Gatewood Campbell. Okay. Miss B.J. Caldwell. And as you come, just a reminder, state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
B.J. Caldwell, 14521 New Haven Drive, Huntersville, North Carolina. This is a request to make the Huntersville Rosenwald School Number 2 for Black children a local historic landmark. Rosenwald schools were built for Negro children in the early 1900s. They were designed as a special school for a special race of Black children living in a segregated society. Less than 60 years after the Civil War, local governments were not actively engaged in providing schools for the education of descendants of the former slaves. Educating these children was not at the top list of things to do in a rural, fledgling financial economy. As a result, careful thought was given to the requirements of building a Rosenwald school. A certain amount of acres had to be required before it could be built. The landscape was conscientiously designed and laid out by a master gardener to a design principle to recognize the tradition, the style that has a historical association with people who would use it. The making of this natural landscape by a cultural group is the essence of how humans interact with nature and relate to the importance of spreading ideas from one area to another. Documentation and preservation of Rosenwald schools was not limited to a single structure, but inclusive of many different features. Now, I am saddened that many of my classmates of 70 years ago are not here to cheer me on as I have fought for the right to preserve our beloved Rosenwald School Number 2 for Black children. To members of Huntersville Town Board, today, your challenge is to meet our request head-on and affirm the designation of this special place for a special people as a local historical landmark by rising above any obstacles and continuing to strive for funding to bring it and the campus grounds into a 21st century appearance. Thank you so very much, and look for me on the news at
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell. Bob Inskeep. Thank you, sir, for coming. If you wouldn't mind stating your name, giving your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Bob Inskip, 15801 Delancey Lane in Huntersville. Good evening. And I don't think you'll see me on the news tonight. We hope not. This is a request for a traffic light to be installed at the corner of actually North Downs Drive, North Downs Lane, Statesville Road, and Hampton Park. It's at that, across from the Hamptons neighborhood, which you all probably know about on Route 21. My wife and I enjoying our 27th year as original homeowners in the Hamptons. Plan to remain here despite the growth. However, it's become, shall we say, less fun to maneuver our way out of the neighborhood on many occasions. I'm here tonight representing our HOA board, the 360 families in the Hamptons, the 125 families of Green Farm, and the current businesses situated across Statesville Road to the west, namely Ortho Carolina, Sienta, Ivy Brook Academy, and Arbor Ridge Retirement Community. And I understand there's going to be one more dental office there soon. There is a strong consensus among these parties for the installation of a temporary traffic signal which NCDOT has acknowledged as warranted as a result of the traffic survey commissioned by the town last September. There's already been one fatality, and we think a light is the best temporary solution in advance of the completion of the Route 21 widening project, which is under current projections, as you may know, will not be completed until probably 2028. The start date, as my understanding, is December 2024. However, per my direct communication with NCDOT, Department of Transportation, on this, with a subject matter expert, the planned start date for the Route 21 expansion project may be extended due to current budget issues related to the state's 10-year highway improvement plan. This has already been extended once, as you may know. Meanwhile, traffic will continue to increase as Arbor Ridge begins operation. It's my understanding that there are plans for, I said, medical building across from Ortho Carolina. This time, the state indicates no funds are available. Therefore, monies for the installation of a temporary light will have to come from citizens in the Hamptons Green Farms, as well as these businesses across the street I mentioned. And hopefully the town. As there is no doubt as to the need, we speak, which today is showing peak volumes of 2,000 vehicles per hour going through there. We believe a light will reduce the risk of a serious accident. That's what we're all about here, is trying to get to some safety. What with the Children's Academy, the large volume of patients entering Ortho Carolina and Charlotte Ear, Nose, and Throat, and the addition of another medical facility as well as the new Arbor Ridge, we think this is a much-needed improvement to the highway safety we have in this town. We'd like to have your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Roberts, can we have staff take a look at that intersection and report back to the board?
Yes, ma'am. I know Stephen Trott's already looked at it. I think I've got an email in my folder about it right now. So we'll send you an email out and have more discussion on it.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know where they're at. Ms. Crystal Silvas?
Hello, Crystal Silvas, 13925 Beatties Ford Road.
And it's my understanding before you get started that someone else has signed up to give you additional time as well. Is Charles Heggie here tonight? Thank you, sir. And you're giving her your 3 minutes? Yes. All right. Then, Ms. Silvas, you have 6 minutes this evening.
All right, obviously here to discuss Community School of Davidson again. I did a request for emails related to this project. I've received most of them, and I'm through about a quarter of them right now, just to 2018. And I'm more than a little bit concerned about what I've found so far. I've given you all a handout just outlining what I'm going to go over so that you can see a few of the pictures. And we're going to start with the fact that this stadium was given funding as if it was a school, despite the fact that no school was built there, and it was known ahead of time that it would not be. Over and over, from 3/6 of 2018 to 7/13 of 2018, NCDOT and the town of Huntersville said, this is not a school, you're not going to receive funding until a school building is built and students are going the required 180 days. That was constant. NCDOT confirmed the legislation on that. Our town board meeting, our previous mayor, John, wanted to confirm that funding would not be given, reimbursement would not be given for any of the road improvements. It was confirmed by Jack Siminoa that it would not be given until a school was constructed. Then, on 7/13 of 2018, at 4:21 p.m., Max Buchanan sent the following email. Just spoke with Lewis. He's from NCDOT. The short answer is yes, they are going to treat the site as if it is a school building. There from the start. Lewis at NCDOT administration is making the liberal interpretation that because they intend to use the site as a drop-off and pickup for their Davidson campus, they'll reimburse when the work is complete. Also indicated that CSD obviously have some influential folks with political ties. They said they will not reimburse for sidewalks and other improvements. We did that, the town. I expect it will be tough not to follow NCDOT interpretation. So obviously, that email didn't make it to our previous board. That was kept with staff, which is obviously unacceptable. I don't know why they feel that it is appropriate to not bring all of this information before the board. I think it calls into question all of the projects that are currently going on. What else is being hidden? Because if our town is basing hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money, money that I'm giving, on influential people with political ties, I have a serious problem with that. Next, CSD was labeled a stadium, which we all know by now is not allowed under Huntersville ordinance in a rural community. It was considered that over and over from 8/15/2017 to 12/7/2017. Then a meeting happened because a representative from the school reached out to Brian Richards and let him know they wanted to build by right. At that point, all labeling went from being a stadium to multi-use fields. Whatever you call it, it's the same thing. There's a definition, there's permanent seating, it's not allowed. All that was presented to the town board was the fact that this is a multi-use field. They did not present the fact that, no, it's not legally allowed to be there. They did not present the fact that there were going to be lights that are not allowed and bleachers that are not allowed. They just presented, hey, this is good for the town. I assume because of influential people with political ties. The stadium lights are still an issue. I sent a picture to some of you from my yard, which is surrounded by trees, and I am still able to sit out there with no light from my porch or my home when their lights are on, which is at least 5 nights a week, and their PA system is used more than just football season. Our light ordinance, 826.1, at a minimum, all lighting installations shall be designed to achieve no greater than the minimum illuminance levels for the activity as recommended by the Illumination Engineering Society of North America. The Illumination Engineering Society of North America. Football. There should be maintained a minimum average of 30 horizontal foot candles on the playing field for facilities fewer than 2,000 spectators. This is 1,500 spectators, and they're at 60 on the field, twice what is allowed. And that's why we have light trespass all over in our community. I did have the lighting plan sent to another engineer. It appears that what was sent to our team was false, that most of the light trespass in adjacent properties was above 2, despite the fact that they listed it as 0. That's a calculation. It's an outright lie. And it's proven by the fact that even tonight, Brian let us know that they have been outside of our ordinance. I have a few extra questions. Why does Rob Cameron with Wells Fargo feel, I'm out of time. All right, I should have got one more person. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have one last speaker this evening, Ms. Nguyen. There she is. Good evening, Ms. Nguyen. Thank you for joining us this evening. If you wouldn't mind stating your name, giving your address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Yes.
Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. I just realized you signed up to speak during the public hearing.
Yes.
So if you wouldn't mind, let's just wait till we get there. We'll be there in just a moment. Thank you so much. That is all that has signed up to speak this evening. We will now move to agenda changes. Commissioner Munger.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move items 10D, 10I, 10K, and 10L from other business to consent agenda as items 8B, 8C, 8D, and 8E, and to defer action on item 10M until our next regular town board meeting on April 4, 2022.
Mr. Munger, could you slow that down for the folks at home? Can you list out the,
Ah, dear. I apologize. I'm a little amped up. Sorry. So, motion to move items 10D, 10I, 10K, and 10L from other business to consent agenda as items 8B, 8C, 8D, and 8E, and to defer action on item 10M, as in Mary, until our next regular town board meeting on April 4, 2022.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to move items over to the consent, and I will reread those. 10E, 10I, 10K, and 10L to consent.
Did you say D or D on the first one?
Oh,
D
no,
as in
I
David.
heard E. So see, I am very glad that I did that. So you said 10E, or 10D, not 10E. Thank you. Let me correct that. So we are moving items 10D, 10I, 10J, I'm sorry, 10K, and I have my reading glasses on this evening, I apologize, and 10L to consent, and then you're also asking to defer item 10M till 4/4 of 2022.
Correct.
All right, and I have a second, that was Commissioner Boone, correct? All right, all those in favor to these agenda changes? And any opposed? Seeing none, that is a 6-0 vote. We will now move to the consent agenda.
I have a secondary one, or do you want me to do
Oh,
that
I'm
later?
sorry, you're right, we do.
My apologies. I'd also like to make a motion to add a closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-319.11A5 to instruct staff on negotiating the terms for the acquisition of a real property to be held following other business.
To be held following other business. There is a motion to go into closed session after other business. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, now.
Motion
I'd
to
like to-
adopt the agenda as amended?
That's where I was headed. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Sorry.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. Now we will go to the consent. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, we will now move into our public hearings. Item 9A, conduct a public hearing on the question of designating as a historical landmark the property known as the Huntersville School Number 2, or also known as the Dellwood Center, including the exterior of the building and the approximately 2.787 acres of land listed under the tax parcel 01908-102 in Mecklenburg County. That this property is located at 508 Dellwood Drive. Ms. Mullins.
Hey, good evening. It's great to see you guys
See
tonight.
you.
Or you all, sorry. I will be presenting the historic landmark designation of Huntersville School Number 2, and I would like to enter my staff report into the
Thank you.
record. Right. So Huntersville School Number 2 is located at 508 Dellwood and is one of 6 remaining Rosenwald schools in Mecklenburg County. Rosenwald schools were built to serve the African American population. The school opened in 1925 and remained open until 1958. In 1958, the Huntersville Better Community Civic Organization purchased the building and converted it into a community center. Since 2008, the building has been owned and operated by the town of Huntersville as a recreation and events center. Charlotte Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks held a virtual public hearing on March 14th on designating the Huntersville School Number 2 as a historic landmark. Planning staff has reviewed the designation report and concurs with the assessment of the significance of the property proposed for historic designation. Your recommended action is to hold the public hearing and take action on the designation of Huntersville School Number 2 as a historic landmark. And there is a representative from Charlotte Mecklenburg HLC here tonight if you all have questions on the designation report or any other specifics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board, we have 2 people that have signed up to speak. Would you like to hear them now, or would you like to hear from the individual from the Landmarks Commission? We'd like to hear from Landmarks? All right, then that's where we'll start.
Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jack Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks Commission and a resident of Huntersville. Booker T. Washington of the Tuskegee Institute and Julius Rosenwald, philanthropist and president of Sears Roebuck, built state-of-the-art schools for African-American children across the South. The effort has been called the most important initiative to advance Black education in the early 20th century. Attending a Rosenwald school put a student at the vanguard of education for Southern African-American children. The architecture of the schools was a tangible statement of the equality of all children, and their programming made them a focal point of the community, identities, and aspirations. By 1928, one-third of the South's rural Black school children and teachers were served by Rosenwald schools. When in 1954, the Supreme Court ruling declared segregation in education unconstitutional, Rosenwald schools slowly became obsolete. Once the pride of their communities, many were abandoned or demolished. Of the 5,357 schools, workshops, and teachers' homes constructed by the program between 1917 and 1932, only about 10 to 12% of the estimated survive today. In North Carolina, it's estimated that there were 813 Rosenwald structures built in North Carolina, more than any other state in the Southeast. The program, in a partnership with the Black community, that raised a match of funding of well over $4.7 million in the Southeast at the time. Mr. Washington died in 1915 and failed to see the completeness of this important program. The Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks Commission believes that we have between 25 and 26 schools in Mecklenburg County, of which you've already heard 6 survive. The Huntersville Rosenwald School, School Number 2, the Little School, will be the 6th to be designated in the county. It's possible that there are remaining 5, although we need to revise a survey that was done in 1987. You've heard of the significance of the school. You'll hear of the significance of the school from community members. It serves as a center of identity of a neighborhood that has seen vast change, continues to see change, and we appreciate all the support from city staff, from town staff. This was a partnership between the Landmarks Commission and the town of Huntersville in the funding, but also in the work to get it accomplished. And we appreciate all the support from board members that would support historic preservation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions? I'm getting ready to do that. Y'all are rushing me this evening. Like, get this done. All right. Rachel, and I apologize if I'm butchering this. Zwiff? Yes, correct. I said it right. I'm so excited. That's wonderful. I'm sorry, I am the worst person for names, so I'm excited when I get one right. If you wouldn't mind stating your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Rachel Zwiff. I reside at 13021 Central Avenue, and I just wanted to come in today and ask you guys to go ahead and designate the Little School as a historic landmark. I am a transport from Pittsburgh. I've been here almost 10 years, and I have 2 sons. And once I learned about the Little School, we spent much time down there with different events within the community, and being on the community staff of Pottstown now, and helping get some change in that area. Having that school preserved for our community is just greatly important to us, and we'd love that you go ahead and designate the school.
Thank you very much. Ms. Nguyen? We'll do a take 2. If you wouldn't mind stating your name and your address for the record?
Yes, I am Verona Nguyen, and I reside at 13219 New Haven Drive in Huntersville, North Carolina. Tonight, I am representing North Mecklenburg Communities United. Reverend Dora DeBose is our chair, and I'm the organization's vice chair. I am here to request that the town board approve the Charlotte Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks Commission's recommendation to designate Huntersville Rosenwald School Number 2 as a historic landmark, a local historic landmark. This recommendation includes the building's exterior and all of its 2.787 acres of land. The building and land represents many achievements that the African American community made in education during the difficult Jim Crow period through the beginning of the early civil rights movement. The history of Rosenwald schools shows that even in the violent Jim Crow period of American history, blacks and whites were able to join forces to finance and build public schools that fostered the education of African American youngsters. The report by Charlotte Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks Commission authenticates the history of Huntersville Rosenwald School Number 2. The land on which the school was built was sold to the County Board of Education in 1925 by Mr. Olin W. Hunter, who was a member of Huntersville's namesake family. I ask you to honor that history for which all of Huntersville should be proud. Over 5,000 Rosenwald schools were built across the country, mostly in southern states from about 1915 through 1932. Currently, most Rosenwald school files are being maintained at Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. The Charlotte Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks Commission designation report of Huntersville Rosenwald School Number 2 lays out the school's local history. For years, the state of North Carolina has been diligently working to take stock of all its Rosenwald schools and trying to keep communities preserving those buildings and their local histories. The North Carolina State Preservation Office has documented the history of Rosenwald schools in North Carolina in a multiple property listings document submitted to the Department of the Interior National Park Service in 2015. I am proud to say I attended Huntersville Rosenwald School Number 2 during the years from 1955 through 1956 and from 56 through 1957.
Ms.
I
Nguyen.
learned a lot in those 2 years.
Ms. Nguyen, your time is up.
All right, can I end with, please?
Yes.
Designate this school.
Absolutely.
It is very important. I'm also going to end up giving you a couple of artifacts of work in the school to develop a proposal to build Whispering Pines, 13 houses with USDA money. This is where they had food service classes and food service prepared for the community.
Thank you so much,
All
Ms.
right,
Nguyen.
thank you for my extra time. I appreciate it.
Commissioners, are there any questions?
Yes, Ms. Quinn, could you give the clerk the rest of your presentation so it could be in the minutes? Could you give the rest of your report that you didn't have a chance to read to the town clerk so they could be in the minutes? Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Munger.
This could be either staff or the Historical Society. One of the things within the ordinance indicates that a suitable sign may be posted indicating that the property has been designated as a historic landmark and containing any other appropriate information. Do we have any specific plans to take care of that right there? Those?
Yeah, so I will let the Historic Landmarks Commission speak to that. I'm not sure if they have their own standards in that way.
Great question, sir. So, and this is great on the screen, whoever pulled this up, thank you very much. Basically, a roadside marker would be appropriate, as long as I think y'all are probably the jurisdiction on the edge of the road there, and it's worked out to meet those ordinances, et cetera. And Landmarks Commission has vendors that we understand that can produce these types of markers. The ones you see on the screen today are a part of what's known as the North Carolina State Highway Marker. In our business, we call it History on a Stick. But there's also, Town of Huntersville has done some markers that it's erected that's got the brand Huntersville on it. And Historic Landmarks Commission would be proud to partner financially as well with the town in order to get that accomplished.
Any other questions? You have a comment? Can we do, then we've got to close the public hearing. So there are no other comments or questions, so we will close this public hearing. Okay? But don't go anywhere. We will now move on to item 10A, which is consider decision on designating as a historic landmark the property known as the Huntersville School Number 2, the Delwood Center. Ms. Millings.
Our recommendation is that you guys go ahead and take action on the designation of Huntersville School Number 2.
So now, are there any questions or comments at this time? Commissioner Partee?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to applaud, I want to cheer, and I want to salute Mrs. Nguyen, Mrs. Caldwell, and Mrs. Swift for the diligence that they provided to getting this Huntersville School Number 2 designated as historical landmark. I am born in 1952. And growing up in New York, I did not have the experience of segregation. And with not having that experience of segregation growing up, I specifically chose to attend a university, Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which was created because of Jim Crow. Back in the day, Negroes could not attend LSU. So in 1971, I went further south, deep south. My parents were scared for me to go down south because I wanted to experience what was known as Jim Crow. That experience made me who I am today. It made me understand the injustices the injustice that we endured during the early 20s and 50s. So therefore, preserving our history is very important. And so that our children, so that our communities, so that we all can see and learn that moving forward together is most important. So I applaud everybody there that got this house designated. Thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Phillips?
So when I got sworn in about the next week, Miss Alexander came to my store and said, "You're coming to the Delwood Center," or the little school as she called it. And I said, "Yes, ma'am," and I sat beside her. I sat in that building and I heard some of the worst things I've ever heard in my life said by a developer who devalued that school for what it is. It makes me emotional to talk about this because Miss BJ and Miss Nguyen, you ladies are living history. And I hope to God the rest of us have learned from you guys to not give up on this fight. Rachel, Stephanie, Janelle, and Sean Caldwell, who's not here, thank you guys for carrying that torch because I know it's been hard for these ladies. And I hope really this makes people understand, don't give up. I'm sorry that it's taken this long to get us to this place, but out of everything I've done being elected, I do not think I will ever be more inspired than I have by you guys. And I really want you to know that what you've done isn't just for Pottstown, it's for Huntersville, it's for Mecklenburg County, it's for North Carolina, it's for the darn South. You guys have changed the world, and I love you all so much. I appreciate you, and I hope when you walk out of here tonight, you walk up with your heads held very high, because I have never been so proud to know so many wonderful people. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Yes, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion. I make a motion that we designate the Huntersville School Number 2 a historical landmark. And that's in my motion.
Is there- I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? I'm like, that is a 6-0 vote. Thank you all, and thank you for all of the hard work, not only from staff, but from the Landmarks Commission, and of course, from our citizens in Pottstown. Thank you all for making this happen. So now we are going to move to item 10B. Petition R21-16, Mosaic Development Group rezoning at 9102 Beatties Ford Road. Mr. Richards.
Good evening, Brian Richards for the planning staff. At this time, I'd like to enter my staff report to the record. Just a quick recap. This is the Mosaic Senior Living Facility on Beatties Ford Road, currently zoned rural. They're looking for a neighborhood residential conditional district classification. There's an overview of the property as it stands today. They're looking to do up to 130 multifamily age-restricted units. Staff is in favor of this. They are requesting 2 modifications. One is for off-street parking reduction. After reviewing the ordinance, we are in support of this, as well as checking out what our neighbors have done. We're in line with other communities. The second modification is for side yard parking, and we are also in support of this modification. The planning board made a recommendation to approve at their last meeting, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Are there any questions of staff? Commissioner Munger.
Always questions. So I'm going to cite a specific area here. Ordinance Modification 1, Article 6, there's a staff comment regarding reaching out to CATS to discuss the possibility of utilizing microtransit as an option for the development. What was CAT's response on that?
Sure, we've spoken several times to the CATS on this. It is in their plan long-term. They're redeveloping and reevaluating their routes up in the northern area right now. Had a meeting with them as recently as Friday. That is on the table. It's not programmed or paid for at this point in time, but we feel that the programs that Mosaic is going to offer for their residents will help support them getting around as they need in the meantime.
Is there a motion on the floor for this item? Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve R21-16, zoning of 9102 Beatties Ford Road from rural to neighborhood residential conditional district. The town board finds that the rezoning as outlined in Part 4 of the staff report is consistent with Huntersville zoning ordinance 11.4.7D, 11.4.7E of the Huntersville 2040 Community Plan Policy. Land use numbers 2.1, 5.1, 6.1, 7.1, 8.1, 10.1, and T 3.1, and the Beatties Ford and Mount Holly Huntersville Small Area Plan. The town board further recommends approval of the request modification 1, the reduction of the number of off-street parking from 139 to 125 spaces, and modification 2, the side yard parking along Beatties Ford Road with a 20-foot buffer to screen the parking lot from Beatties Ford Road. This recommendation for approval is contingent upon the applicant successfully addressing all outstanding staff comments and potential NCDOT comments. It is reasonable and in the public interest to amend the zoning ordinance because the rezoning is consistent with the envisioned usage of the developed pattern set forth in the 2040 Community Plan and the Beatties Ford Mount Holly Small Area Plan.
Second.
I have a motion, and Commissioner Phillips, second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
We love to talk about affordable housing. We love to talk about senior housing. Our community is aging. I'm proud of Huntersville that we're looking towards things like this and we're accepting our fate. And we are ensuring that people can age in place, which is very, very important. And I appreciate the applicant. I know that we have been through the ringer. We've asked a lot of questions, and every time it seems that we have a question, they have an answer, and it's been so nice. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, there is a motion on the floor. There is a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that is a 6-0 vote.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richards. We will now move to petition 10C. It is petition R21-14, Mecklenburg County Recycling Facility Expansion. Mr. Priest.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To now, this time, put the staff report into the record, please. So again, just a quick recap of since the public hearing. This is the location here on Statesville Road, just south of Veerhoff Drive. The application is to amend the conditional rezoning plan that's currently on file to keep the same uses, but just to amend the plan. So just an update again from the public hearing. An updated tree survey was submitted. We confirmed that the tree survey is complete and they are conforming to the application's requirements for saving specimen trees. So that's confirmed there. They did add the greenway note onto the plan, committing to, on the right-hand side, you'll see there, to work with the town once the greenway is proposed to go through the property and there's an alignment there, to work with the town to establish that alignment on the property. So staff is satisfied with that application note there. The rezoning plan that was updated did not have any significant changes to the design, so that remains the same. And the planning board on February 22nd recommended to approve with conditions. And so that was their recommendation on the 22nd there. And that will conclude my my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Priest. The chair will now entertain a motion.
Ma'am, I've got a question before I make a motion.
Okay.
During the public hearings, it was brought up as one of the last questions that will cooking oils or animal waste be processed at this center in the future?
So, I'm sorry, repeat the last part of that statement. What kind of waste?
Will cooking oils or animal waste be processed by this recycling center in the future?
So the current application is under an inorganic residential household waste recycling program, and that's the use that's shown under the zoning ordinance. So if there was a change significantly from what it's doing now to going into organic food waste, oil waste, or animal waste, something to that effect, that would be a different aspect as treated under our ordinance, and they'd have to come back in to modify the rezoning plan and maybe even get a special use permit. So the answer to that question would be no. They'd have to come through this public process.
Okay, thank you for that. I would like to make a motion in considering the proposed rezoning petition R21-14, the North Mecklenburg Recycling Center expansion. The town board recommends approval based on the amendment being consistent with the Huntersville 2040 plan, policy land use 1.1, land use 5.1, and 11.1. The plan shall be updated to include a complete tree survey showing conformance to the tree requirements and with a footnote regarding the future greenway location. As part of this expansion, the applicant shall dedicate to the town the land needed to construct and maintain the rear Verndorf Drive connection as determined by planning staff. It is reasonable and in the public interest to approve the rezoning plan because the center is essential service for local residents. The applicant has partnered with the nearby community of Plum Creek to address the concerns and has gone on record to address potential future concerns as they relate to noise and smell. the additional turn lanes on Statesville Road as required by NCDOT shall be constructed. All staff comments that remain outstanding shall be satisfied in the plan. The applicant will make the best effort to mitigate the smell and acknowledges that they are subject to the town's ordinance regarding nuisances.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and I have a second. Now, are there any other discussion that needs to be had on this item? Seeing none, there's a motion and there is a second. All those in favor? I'm sorry?
Madam Mayor, just as a point of order.
Yes.
The one additional condition that was added to the plan in the motion in regard to the Veerhoff extension right-of-way.
Yes.
The applicant has not put into record that they have agreed to that condition.
Okay.
So that would be required to be a part of the condition to the rezoning.
So is the applicant here?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
And I think we need to hear from the applicant before we vote.
Yes, ma'am. Jeff or Darren, thank you.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Smithberger. I'm the Director of Solid Waste for Mecklenburg County, North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Smithberger. There is a question in regards to the road connection. And if my memory serves, Commissioner Boone, that was to set aside the right-of-way for that future road connection?
As part of the expansion, the Mecklenburg County shall dedicate to the town of Huntersville the land needed to construct and maintain the rear Verndorf Road connection as determined by the planning staff of Huntersville.
Well, that's going to cause some problems in the fact that the Solid Waste Group does not control that piece of property. Part of the property is controlled by Central Piedmont Community College. And it's my understanding from Mr. Priest that they have made such grants of use of that area. However, the other portion of the property, while it is owned by Mecklenburg County, is leased to the town of Huntersville. We would have to reopen that lease to see if that could be possible. Where this particular road goes is within approximately 10 feet of your existing softball fields that are out there. Likely doesn't meet the zoning setbacks, and it's likely a provision that could never be met. So this one provision would likely mean the stoppage of the expansion of the facility. What I would ask is that while we look into this particular issue, that you allow our expansion to continue. As you're aware, Mecklenburg County works with the town of Huntersville, proceeding by the lease that we have for that area out there now. I would like for these two issues to be sort of delinked and continue on working through that with the planning staff in the town of Huntersville and the folks within the Huntersville Park and Rec Department and Mecklenburg County Park and Rec Department. So I had talked with the director of Mecklenburg County's Park and Rec today regarding this, and reopening the lease would likely take quite a bit of time to make sure everything's correct in it. It was last done when the CPCC facility was opened and installed out there. But at this point, my ask to you tonight is that Mecklenburg County will continue to work with you, but please delink these two things.
All right, so thank you for that explanation. I would entertain some discussion on this. Commissioner Munger.
I'd like to ask a question of staff, just in general. What's our comfort level with the explanation and as to whether or not we would actually get the Veerhoff extension? Because I know right now, it's not a 5-year solution. It's not something we need in the next 5 to 10 years. Likely, from what I've heard from staff, it's a 20 to 30-year thing, because I know we are getting the turn lane to come into the front. And obviously, we don't want you to change your traffic pattern. I understand it took some time to develop that. But in that 15, 20-year time frame where traffic starts to stack up and people start to say, hey, we really need to have that secondary entrance, we'd like to have that option. So, hi. I just want to get staff, if you, and I shouldn't say staff, Mr. Priest, my apologies. If you could just kind of give me your gut feel, does it feel like going in the right direction? Because some of my concerns are it was falling on deaf ears and we weren't getting the response we needed, and I felt like we needed to put it into the motion so that we had some teeth in it and we could get what we actually need.
Sure. From a staff perspective, I think we're comfortable with the wording that the county's talking about, the applicant to say, hey, let's work on it to see what we can work out and move toward that direction. As was discussed at the planning board, the immediate need for the connection is probably not there. Because of the turn lanes being put in, that's going to add some additional stacking. We had a stacking issue previously at the facility on 21. That was rectified by moving the goalpost and moving the gateway back in the property so you could stack more people into the facility, plus putting turn lanes in the facility. So that probably helps out a lot. So the immediate need is probably pushed back. And so from staff's recommendation, we'd be fine with just working with the county and try to make that happen in the future.
Okay, so then, Commissioner Boone,
Madam Mayor, then I'd like to amend my motion. I'm sorry, did you?
question?
Oh, I thought, Rob?
Just to kind of go along with Mr. Priest said here, and sorry to interrupt there, Commissioner Boone. You know, in the information we're given, it said staff recommends that establishing the rear connection and having additional access as discussed would be beneficial for the site, especially considering Highways 21 will be likely divided in the future. So I think it's important that this conversation doesn't end here. Potentially we get, I would say, quarterly updates of where we're at with these with this extension, because I think it's going to happen sooner than 20 years, that we're going to need it. Personally, because as we go into construction, that becomes a super highway, so to speak. We're going to need additional access to that facility. Thank you.
So I guess the question then is, quarterly, is that something the board feels is important to get a quarterly update? That just seems like such a short amount of
Yeah,
time.
that seems pretty tight. I mean, even like, I know, I was thinking even once a year, really, because of how things work, I think it would probably work better for staff.
You know me, Commissioner Munger. I mean, if we're going to do something, I want to keep eating at it until it gets done, so.
We could do it weekly if you like.
So Commissioner Boone?
Right, I would like to go ahead and amend my motion, taking the part out that was stated as part of the expansion, the applicant shall dedicate to the town the land needed to construct and maintain the rear Verndorf Drive connection as determined by planning staff. I'd like to take that out of the motion. And the Commissioner,
We will continue my second.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now then, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none? I'm sorry? Seeing none, we will now move on to item, give me a moment. Item 10E. Which is now 10D. Which is now 10D. Budget amendment for Holbrook Park, tennis and pickleball court lighting. Mr. Jaycox.
So in front of you tonight is a request to do a budget amendment from the Park Capital Reserve Fund of $24,000 to fund improvements to the tennis court lights at Holbrook Park. This does not include the actual light fixtures, so none of that's going to change. The brightness of the lights aren't going to change. It's the controllers and how the power is fed to the system. System's 23 years old. We're having a lot of problems, so this will address those problems. The Parks and Rec Commission did unanimously approve this budget amendment as well.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All those, any questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Boone?
Mr. Jaycox, could you tell me the Park Capital Reserve Fund, how much money is in that reserve fund?
Yes, so there's just over $135,000 in the Park Capital Reserve Fund as a whole.
And you're taking the 24 out of that. And that is that taxpayer money?
No, that's user fees.
User fees. Okay, thank you.
There is a motion. There is a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion passes 6-0. We will now move to item 10E, budget amendment for Recreation Center sponsorship funds to fund a shade shelter. Mr. Jaycox.
Yeah, this was approved and recommended by the Parks and Rec Commission as well to move $25,000 from sponsorship funds These are funds that Novant is a sponsor of the rec center, pay us $30,000 a year, so it's coming out of those funds to do a shade shelter outside the rec center where we have picnic tables that provides more shaded space for camps and birthday parties and events like that.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Munger?
Sure. Motion to approve budget amendment of $25,000 from Recreation Center sponsorship funds to fund shade shelter to the capital expense line 10.6200.0500.
I have a motion, I have a second. Are there any questions? Commissioner Boone?
Yes, Mr. Jaycox, same question as before. How much money is in the sponsorship fund?
That is $145.
$145,000? And this is not taxpayer money?
That's right. Sponsor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that is a 6-0 vote. We will now move on to item 10F, budget amendment from sponsorship line to fund Trailhead Art Piece. Mr. Jaycox?
So a recommendation by the Public Art Committee, Parks and Rec Committee, and Greenway Committee all unanimously have recommended using the $35,000 from the sponsorship line, along with the $10,000 art donation for the Trailhead Art Piece at downtown Greenway.
All right, is there a motion on the floor? Commissioner Partee?
I make a motion to approve budget amendment to move $35,000 from the sponsorship line and the $10,000 private donation fund to fund the Trailhead Art Piece.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Boone?
Thank you. Mr. Jaycox, there was 2 companies that wanted to donate money to the town to do something. Are either one of these companies been contacted?
Now, which,
One I know was the Colonial Pipeline people. Were they contacted? So we didn't reach out to them. Anybody else that has been submitted?
I'm not aware of any other companies that.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? There's a motion and, I'm sorry, Commissioner Kovacs.
I just had a question. Do we have any grants that we've applied for that we're currently waiting on for any?
So last year we applied for Electric Cities grant, we did not get it. We provide National Endowment of the Arts, I don't think we got that one. We're reapplying for Electric Cities grant, but for another project, but I think it'll be a while before we hear back. So we have to apply for other grants.
Any other questions? There's a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, we will now move to item 10G, consider approving contract for the Trailhead sculpture. Ms. Hick, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. I know, I knew it.
That's okay.
I knew it when it came out of my mouth. Thank you.
Good evening. The Public Art Commission and the Greenway Trail and Bikeway Commission have chosen Landis Sculpture Studio to create a public art piece for the downtown Greenway Trailhead and would like to move forward with the project.
All right, is there a motion on the floor? Commissioner Munger?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve a contract with Landis Studio for the downtown Greenway Trailhead art piece.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. I have a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am, I just have one question. I want to be sure that there's no taxpayer money being involved in this statute. Is that correct? That is correct. Thank you very much.
There's a motion and there's a second. Any additional questions?
Apologies, yes, I have a question.
Commissioner Munger?
And it's actually more of just a comment. I really appreciate what everything the Public Arts Commission did on this. If you've seen the piece, it's beautiful. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait to see it. There it is. Thank you so much for putting it up on the screen. I love this thing, and I can't wait to see it. That's it.
All right, there is a motion. There's a second. There's no additional discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that is a 6-0 vote. We are moving on. Item 10H, a resolution right-of-way and easements for Arahova Drive project. Mr. Trott.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I have a very brief presentation just to give the location of the Arahova Drive project. And Tonight before you is a resolution to acquire right-of-way and easements to construct that project. So the project entails rebuilding the roundabout at the intersection of Arahova Drive and Boulder Park Drive, which is located here. That's near the James Funeral Home, Goodwill and Credit Union, just to the east of US 21. This is part of, or another piece of, the US 21 at Gilead intersection project, which will be not only improving US 21 and Gilead Road, but also building a back connection that connects Commerce Center over to Boulder Park Drive and adding a connection to the Food Lion Shopping Center. So the area outlined in blue is that area, the general location of where the roundabout is. So the town needs to acquire a little bit of right-of-way and some temporary construction easements to rebuild that roundabout. And be happy to answer any questions you may have.
The Chair will entertain a motion first. Commissioner Munger?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution to acquire right-of-way and easements for the construction of the Arahova Drive project with the following modification. The town manager is not authorized to move forward with the condemnation of the parcels that may not be negotiated for purchase without separate town board approval. And I'm killing words tonight, sorry.
There's a motion and there is a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Boone? Oh, all right. Anyone else? All right, there's a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none? Thank you, Mr. Trott.
Welcome, thank you.
And I believe it is now time to entertain a motion for closed session.
You have like a 5-minute recess?
We will take a 5-minute recess. But I would like to go ahead and have someone make a motion to go into closed session.
Motion to go into
after the 5-minute recess.
5-minute recess.
Thank you. Can someone read again the
You want the whole thing? I got it.
whole thing again, please?
Motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-319.11A5 to instruct staff on negotiating the terms for the acquisition of real property after 5-minute recess.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, we will be back.
I just didn't want us to not have.